Hi, my name's Deborah Baron, and this is the podcast for the Flow of Life community. And here with me today is the most beautiful Deborah Baron, who I absolutely adore and who I met. Where did I meet you, Deborah?
I have no idea.
I wonder, was it on one of Michael's courses? Quite possibly.
No idea. Just feels like we've known each other forever.
Actually, it does, doesn't it? And isn't that so interesting? Because there are people that just seem to be people that energetically you sit with, you know, with them from day one.
Yeah. And we've never been in the same room together, physically.
I was about to say energetically, yeah. Physically, no. And I know when we were on a call the other week, and I said, what I would love, having spent so long with people in this community, and especially the certain few, where we've spent so long on Zoom together, that my wish would be to someone have a ticket drop into my pocket to go, okay, now you can go and see her and him and her and him, wherever they are across the world.
Like the world tour? Would you go all at once?
Oh, that's a really good question. I guess I don't know. And I guess the only other thing is that actually having flexibility to go, oh, I'd like to stay here longer. A bit like Christy Halverson does with her Coddywampling, and that she sits and stays until life moves her on to the next bit. But then I may never come home. So I know you're working on a book.
Oh my goodness, that's what you're bringing up. Okay.
But you are really prolific with your writing. But when did it start?
So, sometime in 2020, I believe. I'm looking at all I have all my articles laid out on my desk here.
Yeah.
So sometime in 2020, and it was an interesting happening for me because I never really thought of myself as a writer. And I was listening to some little class and somebody said, write how you talk. And I went, oh, I know how to talk. And so I just started writing. And it's interesting that you say that I'm prolific because when I first started, I was writing almost every day and publishing almost every day. And now I'm happy if I get something out once a month.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was going to say I don't have as much to say. I don't know if that's the case, but it just slowed down, which is fine.
Well, I guess did life take on communicating in different ways? Because, of course, you started doing, and I know you do with Rob and have done, your courses of public speaking. I've forgotten the name of them, so do excuse me. You go and tell me right now.
It's called Speak and Be Heard.
That's it.
Yeah. And that was a really nice inspiration. Robin and I were on some class together one day, and he was talking about his experience with taking a public speaking class and having the teacher say everybody gets nervous when they get up to speak. And he said he had never been nervous before. And when he heard that, he thought he was supposed to be nervous. Funny. and after that, what's that?
Absolute madness.
Right. And then after that, he did get nervous every time he would get up to speak. And And it occurred, and then he realized through it's his story. He has a story about that, which when you interview him, you can ask him. And and it occurred to me while I was listening to him talk that that understanding the principles can teach us something about public speaking. I mean, it certainly teaches us about where fear comes from or doesn't come from. Certainly teaches us about where inspiration comes from. Certainly teaches us about our true self and our voice. And so I wrote him a note and I said, I have an idea. And we got on the phone the next day and I said, I think we should do a public speaking course. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, I agree. We should do a public speaking course. So we've done it 3 times. We're on our 3rd class. And we also have a playground class of people who've taken it before.
I saw that this time. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just, we show up and we play in that realm. Mm. And we were talking yesterday about what is public.
Tell me more. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, what isn't public? Right? Like this is public.
Yeah.
And if it was just you and me and we weren't recording, it would still be public in a way between you and me. Yeah. Right? How many people do you have to have in the room for you to feel like you're public speaking?
That's really true.
And yet we all, it's funny because as I'm talking, I'm thinking it's kind of like money. Like we all have a different idea of what speaking to a group is. We all have a different idea in our mind of what some number that all of a sudden we've gone from an intimate gathering of friends to a public speech. Just like money, we all have a different idea of what a little bit of money is and what a lot of money is.
And of course, both of them have so much adding around them. Even someone who appears really confident, if I think of my husband, for example, who is a confident man in business, for him, the thought of getting up and speaking at a party is just, I'm not doing it. And yet he's confident in so many other ways, but that just looks terrifying to him.
Yeah. And I imagine he speaks at meetings all the time.
Well, he'll do Zoom calls and he doesn't meet many people in all truth. He works from home, so he doesn't get out much. I had my son's 30th, 3 or 4 years ago, pre-COVID. And because he wouldn't do a speech, because my husband wouldn't do a speech, my son wanted one, it was a case of, well, Mummy, you've got to do one. And I went, oh, okay. And this understanding really helped from the point of view, we drove up in a taxi and I scribbled a few notes on a piece of paper as we drove up there, kind of thinking, maybe I should have done more preparation than this. Arrived and then had to stand up, with a microphone, the whole lot in front of, 50, 60 people. And it was just beautiful.
Mm. And what do you, I'm, this is a little bit of a loaded question, but where do you think the beauty came from? Like, I know in my mind what we've been experiencing in class, but I'd love to hear what.
Well, it's a bit like, the creation of writing. In fact, it's very much like that. But of course, there is my memories attached to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah.
So it's creation playing through the memories of our life together. and trusting that actually whatever comes out is absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, totally. And yet, if you'd asked me 5 years previously, I would have probably written a whole speech and stood up and read it, and it would have looked really robotic.
Yeah.
As opposed to playing in the moment of just whatever plays through us.
Have you ever heard people say that they don't remember what you say, they remember how you felt, how they felt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's been really lovely.
And that's so true from the point of view that, and I guess that's when I said, you know, I'd like to go round and sit in the energy of everybody that I have a sense of, like I have with you, of that. I know you already. And I mean, we all know each other already because we're all one thing. But it's really, really fascinating, that settledness, just that there is sometimes. And that settledness can be there in speaking, and that settledness can be everywhere because we're just recognizing something in ourselves.
Yeah. You know, it's a funny thing. I sometimes wonder why over Zoom can we send visual, we can send hearing, but we can't send taste or smell. But it just occurred to me when you were saying that is, I think we can send energy.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely, because energy is not bound by borders. I mean, it's a bit like, you know, I can think of someone and 2 minutes later, there they are on the phone. Well, that can't be because of a physical connection if they're in another place.
Yeah. And I wonder if they called because I thought of them or if I thought of them because they were about to call.
That is the conundrum. I wouldn't have a clue on that one. Literally, we'd be guessing, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Into the realm of we'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, that's a wonderful place to play. So what are you going to do with your manuscript? How's it coming? Where's it going? Have you got a name?
Yeah, I do. It's called How to Succeed in Life and Work, an Inside Out Guide for Young Professionals.
Wow, that's a lot of words.
Well, it's a title and then a subtitle. How to Succeed in Life and Work is the title.
Okay.
And then the subtitle is an Inside Out Guide for Young Professionals. And it's actually already drafted. I have it on my website as an ebook.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wrote a series of articles that I thought would help young professionals in the workplace. And then I just put them together as a book.
You did a course. You took a course. You mentored a course for young people. Mm-hmm. Gosh, that must have been nearly 2 years ago, was it?
Oh, maybe.
And I know you like working with young professionals, but is that also because I know you have a son who's a young professional, so you hear his side of the world.
And a daughter who's a young professional.
Of course. Who's just had a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always, my whole career, mentored young professionals, even when I was one myself. I always kind of fell into that role.
And what is it that you see makes a difference when you mentor them?
Well, maybe I'll start with my story.
Yeah.
Because I came out of college absolutely certain that I could take on the world. And nothing could stop me. The sky was the limit. And I kind of felt like I stepped on a board and it hit me in the face. It wasn't what I expected. It was way less kind than I expected. Yeah. And I think I always have felt like if we can create kindness, we maximize people's potential. Mm-hmm. And so, we can create kindness as a supervisor, and we can also show people that I guess the words that are sitting in my head is that they don't need kindness. And then I pause because I know that kindness is just something we've made up too. Mm. It's just like a lot or a little. It's just like afraid or not afraid. It's subjective. And so when we can see that it's coming from us and not the people around us, we can let go of that need to be treated in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we can step out in the world knowing that we've got wisdom and that we can trust that wisdom, even if we're getting people in our lives telling us to the contrary, if we can really know that we can trust our wisdom and that our wisdom is stronger than, wiser than what anyone else could ever teach us. And it's not I'm not saying that we can't learn from people. We can. Yet we need our wisdom in order to learn, right? Like if someone teaches us something, that's usually an intellectual understanding.
Yep.
And then we get to decide we get to judge whether they're right or not. And everyone's well-meaning. They're not always right. Someone else's truth is not always my truth. And I spent a lot of years believing that it needed to be, that everyone else's truth was more important than mine. So if I can instill that, I want to say in even just one person, but that doesn't feel enough to me. As many people as possible.
I understand that actually, and it's really interesting what you're saying, because as per usual, these conversations come at exactly the moment when we need to hear something. So thank you, because I just really heard something for myself in just because my reality works this way and my perception of how a kindness in the world is really doesn't have to be anybody else's. Because it is so subjective. And I know kind of we talk about, well, it's just thought and whatever. But there's also a deeper sense of what's kind of fundamentally sits settled within ourselves. Well, there is for me.
Yeah. Well, I can get yelled at and have, 10 different reactions to that. right? Everything from compassion and love to reactivity.
Mm. So you share this understanding with your kids?
I try.
The wonder of parents trying. I know that feeling.
I had a feeling you knew that feeling.
And it's so funny when they go, oh yeah, it's just my thinking. Really?
Oh, I get, I don't want to hear your three-piece psychobabble today.
And it's interesting from the point of view that I know sometimes I really have to just step away from that and understand that this is their human experience. And if they're meant to know anything, when they're meant to know anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Dickon who says our job is really just to love them.
Mm. And then it was interesting because I heard Bill Pettit talk a little while ago, and he was saying that he said, you love your children, but then come what may, there are kind of, there are expectations and this and that, and you birth them. He said, but when your grandchildren come along, that is a whole different level of love, of unconditional. And obviously, well, I haven't experienced that yet, but you have.
Well, my grandson, he's still a teeny tiny little thing, right? Although it's absolutely amazing to me how much they change in, let's see, November, December, January. I mean, he's probably 10 weeks old,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he went from being just like almost, I think we're born with consciousness, but it's the first thing that grows.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can't, the littlest of babies can't even see very well.
Mm.
And then right. So we have a practice of skin to skin with babies, right? So the idea is that when they're first born, bring their skin to our skin, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the level at which they can experience the most. It's so wise of us. And then they start to be able to see. And they can't even see very far, right? They can only see things that are close to them. And they can only see contrast.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even really see color at first. So, we watch them just staring at whatever it is they can see. I mean, I remember the first couple weeks with him, he was just look out the window because that's where there was light coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then he would start to, like make little noises by accident.
Yeah.
And he would kind of play with it like, oh, that was me. Oh, I wonder, if I could do that again. Right. And then they get to the stage where they just stare. So, I mean, to me, that is the greatest example of pure consciousness. They just take it all in.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's just starting to get to the place where he can hold things.
Bless. Yeah.
And it's so amazing on so many levels of just like, number one, this idea of pure consciousness, that there's no judgment. Number two, that he's teaching himself. I mean, we stop giving ourselves credit so often for our ability to teach ourselves, our ability to learn naturally.
Mm.
When we look at a baby, they're doing it. They're doing it so fast, and he's going to teach himself how to crawl, and he's going to teach himself how to talk, and he's going to teach himself how to walk.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And yet, of course, as parents, we put all sorts of created, well, my child has got to do this, and my child has got to do that. And as you have just pointed out, it may be a child I've birthed, but any more than that, it's just not up to me.
And isn't it cool that we don't have to do anything?
Mm.
You know, it's funny because hearing you say that, I really, you know, I always want my children to be happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Every parent's wish, happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Mm.
And when they come to us and they aren't happy, we so badly want to fix it.
Yeah.
And if we could just remember, or to the extent that we can remember, that it's not up to us.
Mm. We're just sitting with them.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, we've all learned how to try and fix our experience. So, you know, for those you love, there's even more than even fixing probably ourselves, our children.
I noticed that with the baby too.
Mm.
I noticed that he, you know, he'll be smiling one minute and then the next minute scrunching up his face and the next minute crying and the next minute back to smiling.
Mm.
And we are so quick to wonder what they need to fix the frown. I mean, we teach them from the earliest age that it's an outside-in experience.
And that's really, I mean, when you give birth and, you know, you're told, well, don't let them cry. Feed them this way. Do it every 3 hours. Put them into routine because that will make your life. The boxes of, just the boxes around children of society, of this is the way to do it. In fact, I had a tennis lesson yesterday and I have a lovely teacher and we were talking about children and giving birth and this sort of thing. And she said, you know, when I look back, I had every bit of intuition as a parent rolled out of me.
Well, that's the same thing that happened to me when I entered the workforce.
Yeah.
I had every bit of intuition rolled out of me.
Mm.
And then realized that it was still there.
It didn't go away, it can't.
Right.
Because we just forget. Do we forget when we get busy? We just don't hear it.
Yeah, we stop. I don't know why we stop trusting. We think there's a solution out there.
But of course, that's interesting too, because if we didn't look out there, then maybe this experience would be really bland.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, it's a bit like the conversation we had the other day with Matt, where it was a case of, you know, if there's no salt and sugar in life, then it's a bit tasteless. So looking out there and coming back.
Huh. So that's part of it. That's that's being human. Gives us richness.
I don't know, but if we all walked around Zen all the time, we might like it, but we may all be a bit, well, give me a bit of spice today.
Right.
That seems to be part of humanity as well, doesn't it?
Well, that's the way the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible, that's the way it's been described to me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that Adam and Eve were pure God, pure light, and covered the entire earth. I don't know if it was earth, world, whatever. And when they ate from the tree of knowledge, that was when they got a sense of self as separate.
Mm. Yes.
Right? They became self-conscious. They hid because they realized they were naked. Before that, they were pure God. And then they got this false sense of separate. And that might be our mission. You know, that might be why we're here, to find our way back.
And of course, then it's interesting. Is it a case of finding our way back or finding we never left it?
Right. Yeah, what's the difference?
Mm. We human beings are wonderfully funny things, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. But I also love the idea that it's just for the fun of it. That we're here just for the fun of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, we make this experience very personal and very important and very much all of those things. And then something occurs and you just go, that was all made up.
Yeah. It's just occurring to me now. Like, I mean, what if we just made it our goal to see how much fun we can have? And that's it.
Yeah, and of course, that would be the most beautiful goal. But then that sounds so flippant.
Does it? I don't know. I'm liking it right now.
To general consensus of opinion, if you say to someone, and I heard Michael say this the other day, play at life, play at work, play at everything. But in our very kind of solid world, play is what children do, so it doesn't matter.
But you and I don't believe that.
No, you and I don't. But even then, sometimes, I mean, building a business to me can look like very serious stuff to do.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to be reminded not to take ourselves so seriously. Yeah. I was watching the Today Show this morning, and you don't get the Today Show. It's a morning news show, and it's got lots of human interest stuff on it. And they were interviewing Harrison Ford.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And apparently he's got his first role in a TV series. He's never been in a TV series before. Well, he's only done.
Hang on, how old must Harrison Ford be?
80.
80.
He's 80.
Wow, I would have said 70, not 80, but yes.
And he was talking about his the woman who plays his wife on this show, and I don't remember who it is, but apparently they were in a movie many years ago where they also played husband and wife. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how nice it is to work with her, and his comment about her, and I wish I remember who it was, but I don't. But his comment about her is she doesn't take herself too seriously. I thought, what a nice thing to say about somebody.
Mm.
I would like someone to say that about me. I would like to lean into that a little more or remember a little more often. What a nice, I don't know, it just brought a really nice feeling to me.
Well, there's just a lightness to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
And the word that comes to mind is an etherealness to it, actually. There's that beyond this, seeing humour in all of this.
Yeah, and then, back to the baby conversation, I don't think my grandson takes himself very seriously.
I doubt it. I don't remember my children taking themselves seriously.
Oh, I remember my son when he was in preschool. We have like home movies of him. He was just so gloriously silly.
Mm.
He still has his silly moments for sure.
Well, I mean, my eldest, who was absolutely obsessed with Batman.
My daughter was obsessed with Batman.
He spent days, months and months and months, actually not days of months, in a Batman costume.
Mm.
But then my daughter, who at about 2 and a bit, I would do the laces up on her shoes. And she would undo them and be very serious because I can do that. You don't need to do it. So that sense of her own independence was her first little battle of, I'm independent from you.
Mm.
She used to drive me up the wall when I was trying to get out on time. But I understand that, if you look in nature and animals are born and half the time the parents push them out of the nest. It's only something in humans that won't let go so easily.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which has to be made up full of expectations of what this is.
Yeah. And I don't know, it feels like something about taking ourselves so seriously.
Because I don't know about you, my children came into this world. And even though I thought I knew a name for them, no.
No? Neither time?
None of them. They came with a name. And that was fascinating. I have 3.
They came with a name.
Came with a name.
Cool. I love that.
So which would tell me again, it's just creation at play.
Yeah. Yeah. And you listen to it.
Mm. But that again is the intuition that plays with us from the moment we're here. It seems to be that way. Husband come in the most unexpected moment.
What are you going to do?
So I know, like me, you've done a lot of volunteer coaching and all of this. And I know because we've spent time together over the last year that it's at times felt like this battle. As for me anyway, maybe not so much for you. And yet I have a manuscript that's come into being whilst I've looked the way of coaching. And the fascinating thing is, so do you.
Yeah. Stuff to say.
Mm.
Stuff to say. What's yours about?
Hero's journey is the very typical, which is interesting because all we're ever doing in every day is our hero's journey of every moment of experience something, see something in it, then want to go and share it. Even if it's just a case of someone who wound us up at the petrol station, it's all we're ever doing. No? But mine, I guess, is my journey from being a neurotic, reactive victim to just being a simple nutcase that I am now.
Yeah.
But it created itself.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because it came to a point of an end.
Because you just knew.
Did you feel that with yours? That all of a sudden it was just a case of, oh, this wants to come together into something?
Yeah, I would write articles and it would be, they kind of fit into a theme. Mm-hmm. And then, but it might still change because I've written like at least 150 articles over the last few years. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I printed them all out and I've been sorting them. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because some of them are very good and some of them are very bad. But I've got a spirituality category, a well-being, a business category, and a results category.
Results?
What
are results?
I don't know.
We both frowned at results there.
So I started reading through the articles and then I kind of sort them into piles. But what's been happening is I find things I've said that touch me. Yeah. And so I stop and I publish them. So on my Instagram, there's lots of quotes from my articles.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's taking me a long time because I just kind of stop and publish if I said something that feels profound, I decide to share it with the world again. But I'm not in any kind of hurry. So I think the business pile could be more articles that get added to the book, because all the chapters are pretty independent. They're like independent articles from each other.
Okay.
So I do have a book, and it does have 9 or 10 articles in it, and that's what's downloadable from my site right now. And then as I go through this, I'll see if there's more to add. Mm-hmm. And then it'll be what it is. I haven't been creating a lot of new. I mean, I'm still writing an article a month for my newsletter, but it doesn't. I don't feel like I'm in creating mode in that way right now.
Well, yeah, life's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. My state of mind around it has changed, which is cool. That's what we do, right? We evolve. We do what makes sense in the moment.
Oh, yes. And I think it's like when we're doing that, well, then we put down to resistance to what is. Whatever is coming up to do is just what's coming up to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I know yesterday I had a day, I'm doing Michael's CTI. And I had one of those moments where I went, I'm supposed to be doing my homework for writing. I'm supposed to be doing my painting for CTI, and I need to also do revisions for a manuscript, plus the whole other list of stuff that, as you know, that comes into life as a wife and a mother and a homemaker and a business and this, that, and the other. And it was just, when we're in that space, or when I'm in that space of I have all of this to do, listening again to that intuition, coming back to intuition again. All I know is that that little voice is so much quieter than all my to-do list.
And if you stop, do you hear it again?
It tends to be a very felt experience of the angst of all of this. I mean, that's what it is for all of us. The minute we're feeling angst, just to look where we're looking and go, okay, so what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, for me, if I get angsty, it's a reminder to pause.
Yeah.
And if I remember to pause, then I settle down, and then I know what to do, because sense shows back up.
And it's interesting because I know I stood in the shower this morning, as if you need that image. But it's just a case of just sit with it. Just sit and see what occurs to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then something does. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I said then something always does, as you say.
Yeah.
And it may not be what I think it's going to be.
Oh, yeah. I actually get a lot of clients who come to me for time management.
Oh, and I get that. Yes. Yeah.
And it's very funny because I tell them right off the bat that I don't teach time management, that there's no such thing as time management. And what I find is that they just don't know what to do next. They're just thinking too hard. And we all know what to do next when we settle down. Or if we really don't know what to do next, it probably doesn't matter. I mean, Michael says that all the time. Yeah.
I mean, it's simple when you, I mean, there was a post today when someone said, I slowed down to the speed of light. And I don't know that I necessarily know what the speed of life is until I'm in the moment. And sometimes life is faster and sometimes it's slower. But I guess it's maybe being present in the moment at whatever speed it's going at.
That's a good point. Yeah. Present always feels better.
And of course, it always looks like we have to do something to be present. Or it can do. It always used to look like I had to do something. I'm going to change all of this around. Always used to look like I had to do something to be present. But it is so simple as just sitting with you here now.
I have a in the shower moment too. Because I remember one day being in the shower and noticing how busy my thinking was, how loud my thinking was. And when I noticed how loud my thinking was, it dropped. And I went from only being able to hear the volume in my head to being able to hear the water hitting the tile that I couldn't hear a moment before because my thinking was so loud. I love that. I love when I remember and all of a sudden I can hear the water in the radiators that I couldn't hear before. And then even just like, I like remembering that I can hear the water in the radiators in the winter and that there's nothing to hear in the summer because they're off. You know, I might hear the ceiling fan in the summer.
There's such a beautiful lightness to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you for being with the community.
Sure.
I love you.
I love you too.